Welcome to this Forcepoint presentation on massive data breach prevention. I'm Mike Ferguson, I'm a data protection specialist from Forcepoint. Now, when we implement a DLP project, I think the important thing to remember is the intended business outcome. We are there to provide visibility into the long-term extraction of sensitive data from your organization's infrastructure across all of its data channels. So it's those three things of visibility, sensitive data, and infrastructure that we need to provide some focus on. And the data is the important thing. I mean, that's a DLP project in itself. It is the information that we're trying to protect, but not all information is made the same. And we implement DLP projects for a number of different reasons. And that's the important thing to remember. The first reason that people will implement a DLP project is for compliance. This is things like personal information, health information, or PCI DSS reasons, the credit card information. The people that care about this type of stuff are those that really have their head on the chopping board and those chopping block, the business owners. These are the guys that really are going to understand what's, want to know if there is a huge data breach, their customer information, their employee information. But at the same time, thresholds are important because one credit card going to eBay is not necessarily a cause for concern, but maybe 100 or even 1,000, depending on the organization. That's when the threshold's met. So compliance is really interesting. Intellectual property. This is for the business owners, the business areas, the data owners. These guys care about this stuff. So they've done some, the hard work. They've made themselves some documents that allow them, your organization, to become competitive. It could also be the crown jewel customer records. It's not just using names and addresses. It's these names and addresses. And customer records within specific databases could become that intellectual property, the crown jewels of the organization. Then there's things like behavioral traits and signs of compromise. Whether it's questionable images being sent out over email that HR is going to be interested in, or password files going to Russian servers. Each time, this is a post of information leaving the organization across multiple channels that should be recorded, and we need to understand what's happening here. So as you can see, there's lots of different data types, and it can become confusing to begin with. So one of the nice things that ForcePoint's been able to do is look at documents themselves, look inside the document. We can look at a document such as this. Imagine this is flying through your email gateway, and we're going to look inside this document as a human being, and I'm going to say, oh, okay, so it's got a name here, it's got a job title, it's got telephone numbers, an email address, an address, and a logo, and together, I can intelligently determine that this is a business card, and I might want to have a technology that looks inside emails and web gateways or USBs and looks for business cards. So something that can look at that and make that determination is going to be really important. But we should be able to do this for loads of different documents. So things like resumes, contracts, merger and acquisition documents. All these follow patterns. It could be technical drawings. There's a whole heap of different types that we should be able to look at. Now, Forcepoint has over 1,900 built-in industry and regional specific, content classifiers that allow us to make those, very quick wins when it comes to deal people saying, I am a retail outlet and I am in Australia, therefore I want to look for this type of information, and we'll do that via a wizard. So it's the fastest to market, fastest value DLP technology out there, and it's also Gartner's leading DLP project from a regulatory and compliance perspective. But then there's the intellectual property. So this is stuff that doesn't necessarily actually align with those built-in policies. So what we need to do is look at the content inside of a document. So get to really what matters to an organization. And this could be your intellectual property, but what we want to do is fingerprint this and create hashes of this. But rather than doing a hash of the entire document, I want to look at the content. So we're going to take out all of those filler words, and then we're going to do hashes of every fourth and sixth word and create a heap of different small hashes that we can then apply to policies to say, if I see somebody cutting and pasting this information into another document, I can say, whoa, that is the intellectual property that was developed in this marketing project and therefore shouldn't be allowed out. And that's really important. Secondly, you might have gone through a whole classification project already, so we need to be able to integrate with things like Bolden James and Tidus, where you classify a document, you embed the document with some metadata, and it's just a really string. But we're able to look at that inside of those custom custom tags for the specific metadata that you've already gone through the hard yards to implement. So that's the information. That's the sensitive data that's important to you. Then we want to look at the infrastructure. So this is detection across all channels. It's not just a point solution. This is mass data breach that we're trying to prevent here. So what we need to do is be able to apply those policies. We've determined what the data is. Now I want to apply these to say, hey, look, marketing can send this information, this type of information out, or maybe the finance department that owns this information is allowed to have the authority over this. So we have pushed these to all these different channels, the web gateways, your email gateways. We can even do discovery of the data as it is resting in your local storage and databases. We can apply this to the cloud services, cloud applications now to scan where it's resting and what your users are doing with it. Then we have a DLP agent. This is just an endpoint that endpoint client that sits on your laptops and workstations, and it can look at the web channel, the email channel, your applications and different protocols like FTP and Instant Messenger, removable media and DVDs. Um, and we also house the fingerprints, all those different content hashes that we've created. We actually house that on the endpoint, so we don't need to be inside the actual network to actually protect your crown jewels. And if they are the crown jewels, we should be able to protect it in when it's outside the network. So that makes it really, really important. And of course, we can look at printers as well from a local network perspective. Now we've also moved our email gateway into the Microsoft Azure marketplace as well. So what you're able to do is go to that marketplace, open up a DLP email gateway, connect it to your local Triton manager, and then you can route your traffic through from Office 365 to us. We can apply the same consistent policies, all the sensitive data into this cloud-based infrastructure. Apply any policies that you've determined, and if they're safe, of course, route them through the Office 365 and or to a third party, so that it can be routed out to the intended recipient. But again, it's that centralized location. And since the acquisition of the Skyfence CASB technology, Forcepoint can now extend its existing cloud application security capability into a full CASB deployment. That means that we can implement APIs from the Triton manager so that it is applying the same policies directly to those applications in the cloud to say, hey, look, are you seeing this information being uploaded or manipulated in a weird way? Or in a proxy based where your users, when they are at home, are trying to access this information that's stored in your cloud applications, your cloud data repositories. We can determine, are they trying to extract that information? Are they trying to access it when they shouldn't do? And apply the necessary controls on this. Then we want to talk about visibility. Now, visibility is the investigation piece. The thing that's most important is making sense of all this information that we're seeing. And one of the most important things to this is imagine that you've got a malicious user inside your network who understands you've got DLP. He's a smart guy. He recognizes that you're probably going to be looking for this information, but he's going to slowly extract information over the course of a few days. And he knows that we can't put in place controls against one credit card number going out at a single time, because that's that's to be expected. So he thinks he's being smart, but what we want to be able to do is when he sends out, say, 10 credit cards over the web gateway, we want to record that. We want to save that information. Then when he sends another 10 out the next day, maybe over a different gateway, over the email channel, maybe he then sends 10 out over the printer. He's going to take those home. Then he's going to start sending 10 out. We're accumulating all these different file numbers until it gets to a threshold that we as an organization deem is dangerous to us. Then when he tries to take this information out from the cloud, we can recognize that this user has extracted over the threshold of what is deemed safe, and now it's dangerous, and we can put in place some prevention capabilities. That cumulative DLP is the essence of the data breach detection and prevention capability that Forcepoint is able to provide. However, even then, what we find is that a lot of organizations don't want to put in place a block. Yeah, we want to be dynamic. We want to be able to allow our users to extract information as and when they want. But what we can do is when it hits those thresholds, say we hit 50 credit card numbers, 50 PII incidents, we want to actually start to up the severity. That now becomes a bit more dangerous to the organization. But then we're going to see a bunch of different incidents listed in our DLP, and that's always been the problem with DLP projects is that we look at this and go, oh my God, there's just too many incidents here. I don't know how to make sense of this. What Forcepoint's able to do is look at those incidents and group them. So we can see that Sam here, over multiple channels of instant messenger, web, and email, has sent out information types, some at a lower severity, some at a medium. Group those ones together that are important and make a case against Sam because maybe he's sending out certain linked information. Then we can see Michael, he's got a couple of high severity incidents. We see Patrick's got a single high and then Joel's got a medium and low. And because of that, we're able to rank the users based on the risk they pose to the organization on the way that they are manipulating that information inside the organization. That allows the investigation to become a lot more streamlined. I can now look at my Triton manager. I can see here I've got James Brown, principal engineer. He's the top one. He's got a risk score of 8.1 for this particular day. I can then look at what the details were, the classification, password file breaches. Okay, now I want to look at those incidents. I click on the actual case. It takes me to the track manager, and I can see all the incidents that he's actually sending out, and put that into a case against that particular user. That is the essence of the Forcepoint massive data breach detection. Thank you for your time.